Let me tell you something you might not want to hear, but absolutely need to hear. Sometimes the loudest "I miss you" is said in complete silence. Yeah. That text he didn't send, the story he watched but never liked, the way he shows up in your notifications only to disappear again, you think it means he's over you? But what if I told you it's the opposite? When someone goes silent after being a part of your life, it's easy to jump to the worst conclusion. He's over you, he's moved on, or he simply doesn't care. But that's not always the reality. In fact, silence can often speak volumes, especially when it comes to emotional attachment. When a man misses you deeply, but isn't emotionally equipped to express it, he might retreat instead of reaching out. This isn't because the feelings are gone, it's because they're overwhelming. For some, silence is a coping mechanism, a form of self-protection. They hope that by staying quiet they can avoid the vulnerability that comes with showing how much they care. In these moments, silence is not absence, it's pressure building. It's him sitting with his thoughts, going over memories, questioning what went wrong, and wrestling with the fact that he still feels a pull toward you. This kind of silence is different from indifference. Indifference doesn't check your profile. Indifference doesn't stay silent, but alert. Indifference walks away without a glance. But when someone is still emotionally invested, their silence becomes almost anxious. They may be hoping that you'll break the silence first, or that time will numb what they're feeling. They may convince themselves that staying away is strong, but in truth, it's fear. Many men are taught not to show weakness, not to chase, not to lose frame. So instead of speaking up, they disappear. But this silence isn't peace. It's not clarity. It's emotional noise disguised as calm. If you're feeling that strange pull, that sense that something is unresolved, you're not imagining it. His silence might be louder than words because behind it there are feelings he's not ready to admit, not to you and not to himself. Understanding this gives you power. Not to wait, not to chase, but to realize that his silence doesn't define your worth. It only reveals his struggle. When a man misses you, but doesn't want to show it directly, his actions tend to become subtle, almost hidden in plain sight. You won't always receive the late-night text or the dramatic call confessing how much he still cares. Instead, he may hover around the edges of your digital world. He views your stories without interacting. He likes an old post out of nowhere. He shows up on your suggested friends because he's been checking your profile. These may seem like coincidences, but often they're not. They're soft signals, ways of staying connected without putting himself on the line emotionally. These subtle actions are intentional. He's trying to feel your presence without risking rejection or appearing too vulnerable. Watching your life unfold from afar is his way of keeping you in his emotional orbit. He wants to know how you're doing, if you've moved on, and if there's still a part of you that's thinking of him too. It's not bold and it's not brave, but it's real. He's emotionally conflicted. He wants connection, but he's afraid of the consequences of reaching out. You might catch these small moves and wonder, why now? Why is he suddenly paying attention again? The answer lies in the fact that he's still emotionally tethered to the idea of you. His actions might not be loud, but they're deliberate. He doesn't comment because he doesn't want to open a conversation he's not ready to finish. He doesn't message you because he's still battling with pride, confusion, or even guilt. But his quiet presence, that's him dipping his toe in the water, trying to sense if you'd still welcome him back. Understanding these subtle moves helps you see the truth behind the silence. They're not empty gestures, they're unspoken admissions. When a man is still emotionally affected by you, his behavior often becomes quiet, careful, and strategic. But the fact that he's still orbiting you in these small ways means he hasn't truly let go. He just hasn't found the strength to face what he's feeling head on. It's easy to mistake silence for closure. When someone stops calling, texting, or showing up, our minds often fill in the blanks with the harshest interpretations. You start thinking he's done with you, that he's already moved on, that the connection meant nothing to him. But the truth is, silence can mean many things, and very often it doesn't mean he no longer cares. Emotional withdrawal is sometimes not a sign of peace, but a sign of internal conflict. Just because someone isn't communicating doesn't mean they found clarity. In fact, silence is often where the most emotional turmoil lives. When a man is missing you, but uncertain about how to handle those feelings, he may pull away out of fear, confusion, or emotional immaturity. Silence becomes a shield. He might be unsure about what he wants, scared of being vulnerable, or even battling with his own ego. So instead of facing you and having an honest conversation, he avoids it altogether. But avoidance doesn't equal absence of emotion. On the contrary, it usually signals unresolved feelings he doesn't know how to manage. People often expect pain to look loud and dramatic, but emotional struggle can be incredibly quiet. Just because he's not saying anything doesn't mean he's not feeling. The mistake is assuming that silence is closure, and then using that assumption to punish yourself or make decisions from a place of insecurity. The truth is, silence can be a holding pattern. He might be waiting, watching, or hoping you'll make the first move. Or he might be stuck in his own emotional maze, paralyzed by the weight of what he feels. You don't need to decode every second of his silence, but you also shouldn't let it rewrite your story. His lack of communication is not proof of your inadequacy. It's a reflection of where he is emotionally. Silence doesn't always mean it's over. It often just means he's struggling in a way he doesn't know how to explain. Understanding this keeps you from internalizing the wrong narrative and empowers you to move forward with clarity and confidence, whether he ever speaks or not. When someone silently lingers in your digital space, watching your stories, liking your posts inconsistently, or just staying quietly connected, it can be incredibly confusing. It feels like presence without commitment, attention without clarity. But here's the truth. Just because he's giving you passive attention doesn't mean he's ready or willing to show up for you in a real and meaningful way. Emotional breadcrumbs are not the same as a meal. They might feel validating in the moment, but they rarely lead anywhere fulfilling. A man who truly values you will move beyond passive signals. He won't rely on vague interactions or subtle hints to keep a foot in the door. If all he's doing is circling around you with no clear communication, that's not emotional investment, it's emotional convenience. He's keeping you in his line of sight, not because he's ready to step up, but because he's not ready to fully let go. And there's a big difference. It's tempting to believe that every view, like, or indirect interaction means something deeper, and in some cases it does. But what matters more than intent is action. Passive attention is easy. It doesn't require risk, vulnerability, or commitment. It allows him to maintain a connection without taking the emotional responsibility that comes with it. He gets to feel close to you without actually doing the work to earn that closeness. This is why it's so important not to let yourself be emotionally tied to these small gestures. They can quickly become a trap, making you overthink every move and hoping it's a sign that he's coming back. But a person who truly wants you in their life will make it clear. They won't play hide and seek with your emotions. They'll show up, speak up, and invest in building something solid. So while his silent presence might mean he misses you, don't let that be enough. Attention is not affection. Proximity is not presence. And emotional crumbs are not love. Don't settle for someone who's content to orbit you. You deserve someone who's willing to stand beside you. It's easy to start questioning your worth when someone you care about goes silent. You might find yourself staring at your phone, checking your messages, wondering what you did wrong or why he hasn't reached out. The longer the silence stretches, the more your mind tries to make sense of it. And too often, that sense-making turns inward. You start believing that if he hasn't come back, if he hasn't called, then maybe you just weren't enough. But this line of thinking is not only painful, it's completely false. Your value is not determined by whether or not he reaches out. It's not defined by how quickly someone realizes they miss you. Everyone moves at their own emotional pace. Some people avoid confronting their feelings out of fear or pride. Others take too long to process what they feel, and in doing so, they let meaningful connections slip away. That delay doesn't mean you are any less valuable. It just means they weren't emotionally ready to meet you at the level you deserve. Basing your self-worth on someone else's silence is like trying to measure your reflection in a broken mirror. It distorts the truth. His inaction says more about where he is emotionally than it does about who you are. Maybe he's confused, maybe he's afraid, or maybe he just doesn't have the tools to face what he feels. None of those reasons make you any less worthy of love, attention, and respect. You have to remind yourself that your confidence, your energy, and your heart are not negotiable. They are not up for silent approval. You don't need someone to validate your worth by choosing you belatedly. Real love doesn't leave you waiting in uncertainty. Real connection doesn't need to be begged for or decoded through silence. When you hold your worth firmly, regardless of who steps up or stays silent, you send a powerful message that you won't shrink yourself for someone else's emotional delay. You're not here to chase. You're here to be chosen fully and clearly. When someone misses you but chooses not to act on it, their feelings, no matter how real, don't hold value unless they're followed by genuine effort. It's easy to romanticize silent longing, to imagine that just because he's thinking about you or quietly watching from afar, it means something meaningful. But the truth is, emotions without action are empty. Missing someone in silence doesn't build trust. It doesn't repair connection. And it certainly doesn't deserve your response if it never turns into a clear and intentional move. Far too often people get caught up in interpreting signs. He watched your story. He liked a post from months ago. He hovered near your favorite place. These passive gestures feel like proof that he still cares. And maybe he does. But care alone isn't enough. If he truly values you, if he really misses you, he needs to show it with words, presence, and commitment. Not with a series of quiet signals that only create more questions than answers. You deserve clarity, not confusion. Someone who genuinely wants to reconnect will reach out with vulnerability, not just curiosity. He won't leave you guessing. He won't let pride, ego, or fear stop him from expressing what he feels. And if he does, if silence is all he ever offers, then you owe it to yourself not to fill in the blanks. His silence is not your cue to step in and do the emotional work for both of you. Letting go of someone who's silently clinging on is hard, especially when your heart wants to believe the feelings are mutual. But love that only lives in the shadows can't grow. You can't build a relationship on potential that never becomes action. So, when the silence stretches on, don't wait for words that may never come. Don't keep answering signals that lead nowhere. The only attention that matters is the kind that is clear, present, and willing to meet you where you are. If he truly misses you, he'll do more than feel it. He'll prove it. And until that day comes, your peace, your time, and your heart deserve more than silence pretending to be love.